Greetings folks, I'm Guy Allen, welcome to All Moto. Today we're chatting about BMW's R1150GS series. Now that ran from 99 through to 2004 and they're now heading for 25, 26 years old of course, and getting to a point where they need a bit of love and attention, effectively, some workshop time. Now I've had a couple of them, one of which is still in my shed and I use it as a runabout. And it's just had a big birthday. I had an issue with the clutch slave cylinder, which was leaking, which in turn caused some damage to the clutch. And so I've had rear main seals, a big birthday, rear main seals, new clutch slave cylinder. We also shouted a big service at doing the Hall effect sensor, one of the cam chain tensioners, a whole bunch of things. Not a cheap exercise, but then again, the bike's going to be good for another 25 years, very happily. They're reliable, they're easy to ride, they're pretty bulletproof, with one exception, and that is the later 2003-2004 bikes with the Evo or Integral brake system on it. Now this was a power assisted brake system, electrically controlled and prone to failure. So that series of bikes we talk about in a bit more detail. It doesn't mean you have to walk away from them, but it means you need to keep in mind that you may be up for a sizable workshop bill if and when the system goes. Let's have a chat with Chris Roberts, who operates BM motorcycles on the east side of Melbourne, one of the country's top BMW workshops. He'll talk us through it.
The thing we're seeing with them now is just age-related things.
Right.
Internal fuel hoses.
Okay.
If they let sit around too much, and a lot of the times they do.
Yeah.
The fuel pump can seize in premium fuel.
Right.
It's been sitting idle for months and months and months.
Yep.
And then all the hoses fail, and then people do this. They put aftermarket hoses in, which this is meant to be a beautiful 180.
Okay.
And then suddenly they've got problems again. And you need a special fuel injected hose that designed to live in fuel.
Right.
It
Okay.
fits internally in the tank.
Right.
So they're the main things we see stop these old vehicles.
Okay.
Hall effect unit and fuel related issues.
Rear main seals, they all seem to go at 25 years.
Yeah, these aren't so bad. We're starting to see a couple now.
Right.
But for the first 20 years we hardly fitted any. So we are now automatically doing them when we do a gearbox, like yours the other day. We did them.
Yeah.
There's a rear main seal and a crankcase ventilation seal. It looks like there's two rear mains, but it's not.
Oh, okay.
So that gets automatically done when we have the gearbox out now, no matter what.
Right. And in my case, it was the clutch slave cylinder that went, but it was a seal in the cylinder.
That's right, yeah.
And I had dirty clutch fluid.
And that's the first thing. If you've got dirty clutch fluid, it usually means your slave's on the way out.
Right.
Even if the clutch fluid's 7 or 8 years old, it seems to stay relatively clean.
Right.
So it's a good telltale.
Right. Okay.
If it's dirty, be proactive.
Okay.
If you catch the slave early, it won't ruin your clutch.
Right.
If you don't, the brake fluid runs down the clutch push rod, which is the centre, and drips on the clutch like a drain.
Okay.
And of course it's an oil, so the clutch ends up spinning up.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
What I did on mine, I changed my lines to braided brake lines just because of time.
Yes.
Mine was, the sun has got in here and heavily contaminated. All this wiring loom was failing.
Yeah, well, you'll see I've rewrapped mine because all that rubber went. Yep.
So I don't know if mine was sun or what they guys used to wash it with, but sort of from that point there, where water or sun would get in, mine was really bad here as well. That's really good.
Well, I think BMW went through a phase of using a recyclable rubber, which doesn't seem to last. And Mercedes-Benz did the same
They do
thing.
their wiring looms.
Yeah.
The trouble is the vehicle was still good when it started to fall apart.
Yeah.
With age, once again, master cylinders, lack of use or lack of changing fluid.
Right.
But if the fluid's been changed every now and then, they're fine.
Okay.
The front master cylinder especially. R1150GS is this final drive assembly.
Yep.
A big bearing can fail.
Okay.
It's not uncommon. I think we've tuned too tight at the factory perhaps.
Right. Okay.
That's not uncommon for us to do those. Just that sort of list of half a dozen things you do on one of these.
The conundrum with these is it costs a fortune to do what they need done. You know, if you do rear main seal and clutch like I've done.
Yes.
But even when you add all that together, I mean, I went through that with the K1200 LT. Even once it was $4.5 grand or something to fix it.
Yep.
Even once I did that, I still had something that did everything that a current $50,000 BMW does.
Yeah.
Which, so there's your conundrum. If you can forget what the bike's worth, what does it actually do?
Yep.
That kind of works for me.
Yeah, absolutely. My mate Dave bought one of these in 1999 and he's still got it.
Right, okay.
We've done the diff, we did the gearbox 18 months ago.
Yeah.
But it's got 180 or 90,000 kilometres on, he loves it. So, you know, fork seals every now and then like any motorcycle. Suspension's super reliable in these, things will last forever.
Right, okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much all we ever do to them. Probably the biggest thing we see is the final drive bearing.
Right.
Slave cylinder.
Yeah.
And if they ever ring up and say my bike's stopped, if it's got a fuel pump noise and it's not spraying fuel internally from a failed hose, it's generally the Hall effect sensor. Like we did like I said, we did one last week.
Okay, so care and feeding, what do you do to minimise grease?
Well, with the clutch slaves and all that, every couple of years change your clutch fluid.
Right.
Brake fluid flush, just your normal maintenance.
Yeah, okay.
1150's going to always, or most of them always use a little bit of oil.
Yep.
They just do. So be mindful of that when you're travelling.
Yep.
We've only ever rebuilt 2 or 3, haven't we, Joe?
Yeah, not many.
So the new set of rings, it seems to just completely stop that. So I don't know if they've changed the rings, material, or. But certainly once they've been done, they never use oil again.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So nothing tricky, really.
No, just that's part of the attraction. I think it's a good, honest bike. Valve clearances every 10,000 k. Change your fuel filter and air filter every 20,000. Spark plugs every 20.
Right.
Flush your brake fluid every couple of years. Alternator belt every 40,000 kilometres.
Ah, okay.
I
Right.
listed 60 initially, and they've changed that because people are over tension or under tension them, so it's every 40k we do that. It's less trouble.
Righto. So, talk me through this.
Okay. This is the left-hand side timing chain tensioner.
Okay.
It's a hydraulic tensioner,
Yep.
and runs off oil pressure, feeds through the engine, lives in behind the throttle body,
Yep.
and this particular unit, because it runs upside down, drains oil all the time and ends up very noisy as first start up in the morning, and they are fraught with dangers for failing with age.
Right.
So sometimes the engine can be quite noisy. It's pleasantly surprising how quickly this sorts it.
Okay. All right.
It just fills with oil, pressure,
Yep.
and it forces the piston out onto the chain.
Right.
Spring
Okay.
operated to start with. That's meant to keep it quiet in the mornings.
Yep. Yep.
And then the oil pressure comes up and it instantly starts to work within a second or two.
Okay, now as promised, we're going to have a bit of a chat about the EVO or integral brake systems. So integral ABS, 4,000 to repair.
4,000 for the part.
For parts.
And
Right.
3 or 4 hours to install, code and bleed.
Now, my understanding is it's not a matter of if, it's when.
Yeah, I feel that too. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Some have lasted a long time,
Right.
but yeah.
Okay.
And the trouble with that is when it fails, you actually end up with no brakes.
Yes, that's right, because
It's
you've
not
got
a healthy situation.
Yeah, dead lever. Yeah, okay.
If this ABS unit was to fail, all you
Yeah.
notice is the lights come on the dashboard and your ABS system no longer works. You've still
Right.
got your normal braking system, your residual braking system,
Yeah,
which is
okay.
a far better option.
So the conversions that people are doing, can you talk me through that? What do they do with it?
So one of them is replace the rear master cylinder to a smaller unit.
Right.
You plumb the master cylinder to the rear caliper just normally. It's not,
Yeah.
not integrated anymore.
Yep.
And the front unit, sometimes we have to keep the controller, the electronic controller.
Right.
Otherwise it's just basically some plumbing.
Okay.
Yeah. For roadworthy reasons, like if it's got a front ABS sensor ring, we'd remove that sensor ring and remove stickers, remove lights out of the instruments, so that the bike does not look like it ever had ABS. Otherwise you could be selling a vehicle that the new owner thought had ABS and doesn't.
Yes. So tread carefully if it's got integral ABS.
Yeah, I would buy that bike with in mind that it was going to go.
Yeah.
So in my budget would be the fact that it was going to go. Yeah.
Okay.
So I would, twin sparks, awesome, better gearbox,
Yep.
And a nicer ignition system.
Right.
Bit nicer power, a bit more torque. But the ABS system that comes with it was not so good.
Yeah.
I'm a bit spoilt. The boys did me an 1150GS Adventure gearbox the other day for my 1150. So it's got the nice low first. It's got the Teflon slippers and the selector forks, sliders. So it's a much nicer gearbox.
Oh, okay. Right.
So that's a good combination to have if you ever need a gearbox blown. Have one blow up. Try and find a late model one and bang it in.
Oh.
They just bolt in. They're exactly the same casing.
Okay.
Yeah. Just different internals.
Okay.
I hope you got something out of that. Meanwhile, our 1150 is running beautifully. It's quiet, it's crisp, it's actually picked up some horsepower since the big service, and I'm sure it'll last another couple of decades.